So for the next talk, I would love to introduce Leslie Polanka, who is the Learning Coordinator with South Shields Museums and Art Gallery. And she's going to be talking about how we can help children thrive rather than just survive. And this is going to be about an emotion-based school avoidance case study. So over to you, Leslie.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Great. Okay, so as Shannon said, my name is Leslie. I work as a learning coordinator at South Shields Museum and Art Gallery. It is part of Northeast Museums, one of 12 cultural properties that we manage. And South Shields Museum and Art Gallery is located in South Shields and South Tyneside, and it is a very small local museum of social history and local art, and it is deeply rooted in the community. So our audience really is comprised of local people who've been coming from the time that they were little, when the building was a library and then changed into a museum. I'm going to tell you about a project that I worked on with an educational psychologist called Lauren Bowen. She works for the local South Tyneside Council, and we worked on a collaboration together with children who have EBSA. So what is EBSA? EBSA is a child or a young person who has severe difficulty in attending school due to emotional factors. It's prolonged absences from school. And like the rest of the nation, South Tyneside, I've gone too far ahead. So prolonged absences from school, and what it isn't is parentally condoned absences or registered homeschooling. It's very different from homeschooling. These children are not in education, they just don't go to school. So in context, the UK levels of EBSA is striking regarding EBSA cases. Every local authority across the country is struggling to understand how best to respond to this issue. Educational psychologist practices, they're feeling stuck. They're working with children and young people in schools, and they don't have any answers on how to tackle the problem and get them to stay in school. And the policies and the guidances that appear, they offer tools. They seem to promote getting the child back into school and not addressing the problem, which is what the child is feeling and why they aren't going. So they're not listening. And what this project is about giving these children and young people an opportunity for us to listen to them through art and visiting the museum. So South Tyneside, like the rest of the UK, has a very large EBSA problem, and since COVID, the numbers have been increasing year in on year end. It isn't bad parenting, and it isn't poor behavior. It isn't a choice. Children who struggle to attend school are not refusing, they're communicating to us. What if children experiencing EBSA are the canaries in a mine, and they're warning us that something needs to change in the social level? So Lauren Bowen is an educational psychologist, like I said, who works with children and young people in South Tyneside. And she noticed that a lot of the children she was working with were all creative. This was sort of a common theme between them. And she wanted to know what maybe this creativity could tell us about these children and young people who weren't attending school. So she doesn't see these children in school, she makes home visits. So that's how she works with these children. She wanted to learn through this collective strength what it might tell us about their issues. And she started thinking about community spaces outside of school where these children and young people might use or feel comfortable in. And she started to think about, well, maybe a local museum in the local community might be a place to start. So Lauren got in touch with us, and she explained how children with EBSA can often feel like a square peg in education, and how this develops into the child feeling as though they are the problem. We wanted to reframe this and help children understand how, collectively, others also experience similar needs and how using the museum space and its collections might help them and us learn more about the problem. This project aimed to centralize children's views about why the school context and culture can be a challenging place for them and what needs to change. So this program wasn't about children learning, it was about children teaching us, okay? We were going to listen to them so that we can inform those who do teach how to better help children and young people who are suffering from emotional school avoidance. So the project was kind of the first of its type, a collaboration between a psychological health education agency and a museum. Lauren had never done this before. I've never worked with an educational psychologist before. I never worked with emotionally based school avoidant children and young people. So it was all new, and we were going to work out the plan together. So what we did is we had 6 sessions. We had an introductory session where we set up a museum trail, and it was made up of originally six children and young people with their adults to start, and we wound up having 4 children and young people and 5 adults at the end. They came with an adult, so a carer, whether it be a parent or a grandparent. Each session was 1 hour long, and it happened after school time, so 3:30 to 4:30. It ran from June to July with an exhibition of their artwork that opened up in August. So we had an introductory session where the families met me. Lauren was there, and we had a trail throughout the museum, and we had some warm-up activities so they could get to know me, because part of the project was building trust over these 6 weeks. And I failed. First time out, I failed even on session 1. I listened, and they did not like having such an open-ended activity. One child left. She went home. She said she got the ick, and this is actually a recognized word, according to Lauren, and she didn't return to the program. Another child, a younger one who was about 9, he felt really uncomfortable trying to find things. He didn't want to have to do that. He went directly to the animal area and stayed there and then came up later. So I listened to that, and I made sure that I didn't have warm-up activities anymore going forwards. Nobody liked that. And I built in more structure with the next sessions. So we had 3 creative engagement sessions exploring art in the collections as a way to express themselves and their feelings, their identity, and their school experiences. Then we had 2 unstructured creative art sessions where they had the freedom to explore the museum however they wanted. And by that time, after those sessions, sitting with them and their adults, they felt comfortable to just come with me alone and wander around the museum and point out things that they liked. They talked to me about what they liked, and we just had discussions. No one was trying to teach anybody anything. It was just about being present and listening and being supportive and making them feel safe and secure and valuable. There was one-to-one interaction with the educational psychologist, Lauren. So throughout that hour, she would roam around and talk to the different children and young people and their family members. There was independent writing of the narrative to go along with their artwork for the exhibition. We had the exhibition in August, and then in September, we had a celebration and feedback session. One of the things that was really amazing is that when we first set out to do this, it was just for the children and young people. The adults were there as support. They weren't supposed to be there on their own. But the adults really, really enjoyed taking part in the sessions, and it was organic. They also participated in all of the activities. We participated in discussions. They shared their own memories of coming to the museum when they were a child and passing on that experience to their daughter or granddaughter made them feel connected. They felt more connected to their adult, and they felt more connected to their community, which made them feel a greater and deeper sense of belonging. This picture here is one of the activities that we did with self-portraiture, where they put tinfoil on their faces and then looked at them to try and see what they looked like. And it was just a sensory activity, but it gets you thinking about yourself. Right. So some of the activities, like I said, we did a self-portraiture one. We did an abstract session with abstract art. We did a session with a local artist on mining history. And again, that brought up some more local knowledge from the parents and the grandparents, because they grew up with the mining industry in South Tyneside. So they recollected memories that they had to me and to Lauren and to the children. So there was a lot of connection being made, a lot of discussion. We did sensory slow looking at some of the art, and they had a wide range to all kinds of art materials that they could just go to and use. If something wasn't out, they asked me for it, and I went in the cupboard and I got it. They worked with clay, they worked with paint, we did printmaking, and all of this informal atmosphere really allowed them to relax. This is an activity that we did where I just threw out a bunch of cut up different shapes of abstract card after they looked at some of the abstract art. And we all sat on the carpet and started playing. And Junior, one of the children, really, this was the first time he felt interested in doing the activities. So now I saw what interests Junior. What can I put out next time that's going to make Junior feel comfortable? Junior didn't like sitting at the table with everybody else. I had to have a table for him and his mother. The rest of the group didn't mind sitting together, so that was another change that I made after the first session. And he was able to really let his creativity flow after that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you through the artwork that the participants made, and they wrote about how they felt about school, and this was communicated in the artwork that they made. Put your thumbs up if you want me to read it, or if you don't want me to read it and you can read it yourself, I'll leave it up for a couple of minutes and go on to the next slide. Thumbs up for me to read it. Okay. So this is Astral, and Astral was 15, and by the end of this project, she wanted to volunteer at the museum. When she first started, she wore a face mask. She was very shy. She was very, very reticent to engage with me, and I just gave her space. So her art shows my two sides. One is the dark, gloomy side. This shows how I hide myself and feel all eyes are on me when I'm in school. The other side shows me when I'm not in school, I'm bright and can be more like myself. It almost feels like sun and moon. Okay, so this is Junior. This is, he's 9, and this is the child who I said couldn't sit it with anybody else, didn't want to participate in the beginning. After he used the cards, he got a lot more creative and a lot friendlier. He still didn't really talk to me, but that was fine. I gave him what he needed, and that's all that mattered. My art shows me hiding on a mountain. This is how I can feel at school, alone and isolated. The sun is the building pressure I feel from everything about going to school and doing work. This can make me feel more alone. Junior really enjoyed printmaking, and for the rest of the sessions, he just continued to do printmaking. And by midway in the project, he wasn't at school at all. In fact, they took him off the register. But I found out he's gone back to school now. So that's really, really great, because he's only 9. Oh. This is Isla. So Isla left the project, but worked from home. She came once, and she couldn't cope with the environment, but she still wanted to express how school made her feel. Obviously, she was still meeting with Lauren, and she submitted her work to us. She's 14. This art piece is a question mark, because it can be hard to know how to feel or how to describe how I feel. But the flowers inside show a piece of me, Some of the flowers are wilting, dying, because some days are hard. Bad days are often linked to how I feel about myself and how I look. This can feel like I do not have any energy, and I stay in bed. The alive flowers, which are facing up, represent my good days, where I might go out and do something. I can have a mix of good and bad days. In this piece, not everything is perfect, and I believe it does not have to be perfect. No day will be perfect, but it can still be good. From an outsider perspective, my day may seem good, but my day may not seem good, but it can still be good to me. And this is Lily. Lily is also age 16. My art shows the pathway into school, the brain rush, heart rush, the rushing belly, pain in my legs, and shaking I experience. I feel like all eyes are on me when I see the school doors. In my art, you see a person standing at the start of the walkway into school, standing there feeling like the ground is going to eat you. Art means the world to me. I enjoy making fun drawings and expressing my emotions on paper, especially if I do not feel like using words. It helps me show other people how I feel, to see if they relate or if it can help them in the future too. If they ever come across something similar, sometimes I draw to take my mind off things as it clears my head. Drawing, painting is good for my mental health, anxiety when I feel down. So Lauren thought about the themes that were running through this work and the idea of being seen and not seen. They used eyes a lot in some of the things that they made, isolation and something being hidden, parts of themselves being made smaller, and the judgment and the pressure from the outside influences. Now, I told you the parents took part as well, and you're going to cry because it's heartbreaking when you see their work. This is Junior's mom, Emma. My piece shows my heart breaking when I was trying to get Junior into school. I hated to see him struggle so much, and as you can see from my art, I started to think I'm a bad mom. It felt like a lot of pressure. It is important that those helping children with EBSA know that parents are often hurting just as much. The words that are up there: pressure, guilty, not good enough, heartbroken, helplessness, tears, judged, overwhelmed. This is Isla's mom, Julie. So my piece of art shows how messy my mind can feel. There's one side where everything feels good and I'm connected to love. On the other side, I can feel stressed and hopeless. When you have a child who struggles to attend school, it is hard to know what to do or what to say to make it feel better. It's a helpless feeling. Reflect us and what is important to us. It reflects our identity. As you can see, family is extremely important to us. We have relatives who were artists, and this creative streak runs through our family. Now, Astral's mother didn't want to be included in the presentation of her work. She also suffers from anxiety, ADHD, and autism. But she's been coming to the museum since she was young. And the museum for her felt like home. And by the end, the museum felt like home for Astral as well. As I told you, she wore a face mask. By the end, no face mask, completely free, wants to volunteer at the museum. So collectively, what might this illustrate about the parental care experience? Again, the themes were the energy and the emotional impact that this was having on them, how they're perceived as parents and the judgments that were made, the family structure as a buffer of the whole family and the ripple effect, because if one is suffering, everyone is suffering, and the sense of trying to balance the hope and the struggles. This is the exhibition. So I'm just going to forward to my notes here. So the exhibition, I said, went up in August, and it was advertised, it was written up in the newspapers, we had an opening, And this really impacted the children and the young people. They felt as though, for once, they weren't being done to, but done with. They were in charge. I listened to them. Lauren listened to them. They led the program. They spent the time. They wrote about what they felt in order to help others who are in the same position, in order for us to take this information back to local authorities so that they can talk to the schools and talk to educational psychologists. We gave a talk to a room full of educational psychologists at Newcastle University a few months ago, and none of them have tried anything like this. We think it's a fantastic thing, and the children just felt so successful for once in their lives and not judged. So, key reflections on this. A museum setting can be a safe and valuable space for supporting young people, building relationships so children felt safe to explore their identities and feelings, flexible activities and opportunities for independent exploration, creation, help develop confidence and reduce anxiety, access to a community space and the historical experience of the museum meant children could connect with families about their shared experience of the town they lived in. Dialogue within the sessions allowed families to share memories. Some of this provoked humor and joy, and some memories shared prompted reflection on the impact of EBSA on family dynamics and how culture has changed over time. Entering the museum is a discrete achievement for many of these children. Owing to the nature of EBSA, attendance and engagement can often be challenging. However, accessing the museum space meant children could experience overcoming a barrier, opportunities to feel seen and heard without judgment, empowering and enabling. So there were lots of outcomes for the participants. I think I've mentioned a few of them, but the access to the museum collection spaces through play, sensory exploration, and guided visits. They had memorable and positive experiences. Their stress levels were reduced, which we found out through our assessments. Knowing that there are places of belonging without judgment. A safe space to create art and be themselves. The engagement with the museum on a personal and professional level was something they never had before. And the opportunity to exhibit work in a museum, their local museum, to make waves, I think. Just going to move on to the museum outcomes were great for us as well, to be part of young people and their families, to have a role in a memorable and transferable experience. For me, that's the most important one. And helping children and young local people to achieve their goals. The next thing is that's part of ongoing research and development of a program that helps schools, children, and young people and their families. So that takes me to, the next steps. Where are we going with this? So we're continuing this project, and we're going to be continuing it for the next 3 years, actually. So how can schools and educational specialists utilize museum visits and engagement with collections and museum spaces for those with EBSA? Well, they can be aware of their local cultural institutions, and local cultural institutions can learn from people like Nikki and the work that she's doing and the work that we're doing, and filter that down. What does trust, confidence, and resilience in children and young people through museum engagement look like? Well, it looks like this. It looks like children who have renewed confidence, who have lower stress levels, who feel that they are capable of achieving something, even small, like walking over the threshold into a museum and returning to that museum, wanting to dedicate their time and volunteer in that same space, feeling like that space is a home for them. And finally, how can museums support families with CYP and EBSA? So we're very lucky, South Shields Museum and Art Gallery, to be part of a 3-year partnership with the National Gallery. It's their Masterpiece Tours, and they had never heard of EBSA before. So you've got this fantastic National Gallery now interested in EBSA and what they can do. So as part of this program, we get a masterpiece every year for 3 years, and these children and young people will be engaging with this work and creating an exhibition alongside it. So if you thought a local museum exhibition was something powerful for them, I think this is going to be super life-changing. And we're getting a Monet, and it's coming in January, and the children are going to be doing an amazing project, creating films that are going to go sit alongside this amazing masterpiece in our museum. And finally, we are now also part of a hub. So this is something that you can do. The local authority, Lauren and her colleagues have created a huge local authority hub for EBSA. We're here. Museum collaborations and art projects. So we're now part of this larger program across the authority. And we're here, volunteering, just like Astral wants to volunteer. We're going to have a volunteering program as well. So I'm so passionate about this. I hope you can tell. I was very nervous, so I apologize if that came through as well. But please, we need to listen to our children. And I'm going to end with this. All human beings are of absolutely equal worth simply by virtue of being human. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Leslie, for sharing that really impactful work. And yeah, I think it's been mentioned a few times and in the last talk, the North East seems to be a real hub of this work and really driving it forward. And I know there is the North East Network as well, so please do connect into that. We've got a really healthy time for questions, so thank you so much, Leslie. So does anybody in the audience have a question or a comment or a discussion point? Because we've got 10 minutes. So.
Oh, can I just make one comment? This poster was designed by Astral. She made that for the exhibition. Just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you.
No questions?
Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you so much for explaining about the project.
I can't hear you. I don't know how to do both.
Have you got... Yeah, if you pop that on and ear in.
She could.
Sorry about that. I'm dyslexic. This is really hard to manage my hands, this and that. Okay, go on.
Thank you for explaining about the project. Still can't hear.
Sorry again, I have to turn it on. Okay.
It's all right. It took me half a day to work out how to use this, so that's okay. Thank you so much. It's really inspiring. I've got a family member who, for emotional reasons, doesn't attend school. I was so encouraged to hear about the EdPsych you're working with. It seems that your council, do you get the sense that your council is forward-thinking in their work? I just wonder if you had any sense of how the EdPsych will take the learning back to her team in the council. Has that been explained to you?
Yes, so there's a partnership called the LSEP, the Learning Cultural Education Partnership, and we're all connected. So we meet every month, the partners, and we discuss what's going on.
Yeah.
And this was, the hub was, developed alongside us. So.
Would I be able to find out about that partnership, or is it an internal thing?
What do you mean internal?
I think I'm thinking I want to signpost people I know to the work that you're all doing together.
Sure. I mean, I didn't put my contacts on the slide presentation. I think I forgot that.
I'll do that.
But I will, you can contact me and I can send you the information.
It's a lovely project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Just in the middle there, yeah. Here? That side, yeah. Left first and then right.
Thank you, Leslie. And how are you hoping to grow this project in the next years as a pilot?
Right, so the first bit that I just told you about was our pilot. And so over the next 3 years, we're going to grow the program. This coming autumn, we'll have a new cohort and maybe some of the old children and young people, but we've also recruited a local school, a primary school. So we're working with a handful of children that the director of the school has identified as children who may become school avoiders for various reasons. And I'm going to meet with them when the Monet is there. So each year when we get the masterpiece, for those 3 months, we will have a program with the children from the local primary school, and I hope to increase that over the next couple of years so that we can track the children, we can see where they're going, and hopefully this will become, because of the hub, it should be part of the local authority. This is what's going to happen. And I'm hoping there's a PhD in it as well for me.
Hi, just a quick question about funding.
Yeah.
Your project, is it funded by the local authority or do you get external funding for it?
Right, so the pilot program, we had no funding. We just volunteered. It was a collaboration that we were both passionate about. So my time, we paid for it internally through Northeast Museums. With the National Gallery, we have funding. So that is helping funding the program every year. And we are actively seeking funding. It is so difficult in this climate to get funding. And health and well-being is such a topic. So we're trying. I'm not involved in that side. You know, we have people that do that. But crossing fingers, we'll get some more.
Hands there.
I have a son who also struggles to go to school, and when he's in the state that he can't, I mean, he so wants to, and really he's a teenager, and but when he can't go, it's because of autistic burnout. Basically, it's just too overwhelming for him, and I just don't think he would want to participate in going to a museum for a program like this either when he's in that state, and that must be the case for quite a lot of children who avoid school. How do you reach them, or can you not? I mean, how would you get them to actually come?
Right, so I can't actually get them to come. But Lauren is one of many educational psychologists in our local authority. So they each have a caseload. She works and communicates with her colleagues. And all we can do is, with that hub, is guide them to the appropriate service that will help them and hope that they take a chance. So I'm offering something really exciting, filmmaking, as part of the one coming up in the next, in September, because with phones, digital filmmaking, and I think that's something that will grab them. I'm coming to them. So we have an artist who's going to facilitate some workshops on this, and they're going to make some films to be shown alongside
That's great.
the exhibition.
Yeah. I mean, the bigger question, I suppose, is how do you transform schools so that they're places that children don't want to avoid?
Yes, but that's what this work hopefully is going to inform us on.
Yeah.
And hopefully this then gets passed down to those in charge in the local authorities and write the education plans and programs and so on.
Thank you. I think there was a hand here, and then we'll go to Nikki at the back, and then I think that'll probably take us to time.
So I was just wondering, in a sort of, I guess, lessons learned capacity, whether there was anything that you came across, I guess, language-wise, or when you were facilitating the sessions, which helped you engage with those young people? Because obviously, for somebody who's got EBSA, certain forms of language or communication styles could be quite triggering. I'm not sure if I'm really describing this in the right way, but what did you learn to help?
Before it even began, I asked for reports on every child. So I studied their issues. I also, like other people, have lived experience. I have a child who has ADHD, autism, school avoidance from time to time growing up. So it's hard. And I made mistakes. I made mistakes with Junior. I was trying too hard with Junior, and I should have stepped back. I had better experience with young, older people than little ones. So I think all I can say is you just have to listen and take the lead from them. If they are showing you back off, back off. That's what I did. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. And then, finally we'll go to Nikki at the back for the last question.
Hi, I was just wondering, in response to the previous gentleman, whether there's anything that could be done online for those young people that perhaps are never going to leave because they're in burnout or they just can't, getting through the door is too much. And also just wanted to say that all the artwork is amazing, and I feel like everyone needs to see it, and it would be so helpful, I think, for other children who are experiencing similar to see it.
Well, that's why we did also the exhibition, because a lot of people come through the museum and they wanted people, that was the goal, they wanted people to be able to be in their shoes and to see what they were feeling. And in fact, many parents came up to us and said, oh, I've got a child who can they be part of this program? And we said, do they work with an educational psychologist? So there's scope, but we're working with educational psychologists.
Yeah, publish it, and then they can read it.
Yeah, exactly.
Great, thank you. And thank you so much, Leslie. And I think, just to acknowledge, thank you for people sharing their lived experience as well, because I know that's not always easy in a format like this. So a big thank you to Leslie, a big thank you to you for your questions, and please be back here for the last talk if you're interested at past. Thank you very much. Well done.
Yeah, it's over.